going to show you quickly how to make biscuits. I'm going to heat up my baking stone. If you don't have one, that's okay. I'm starting to preheat my oven to 450, so I'm going to stick my stone in there and let it preheat. I'm going to make a half batch of biscuits today because I only want about 4 biscuits. And biscuits don't really save very well, so it's always best to make them fresh, and they're very quick to put together. First thing I'm going to do is measure out my flour. I need a cup of flour, and I'm going to go with all-purpose unbleached white flour. And you always want to fluff up and spoon your flour and lightly measure it into your measuring cup. You don't have to level it off. You can kind of eyeball it. To the flour, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I like to use the aluminum-free baking powder. We're going to add 3/8 of a teaspoon of salt. You can use whatever salt you prefer. I use pink salt. You can use iodized salt. Just make sure it's a fine table salt. And to this you can add your ½ tablespoon of sugar, but today I'm going to use honey instead of sugar, so I'm going to add it to my liquid ingredient, which is buttermilk. And we are going to cut in our butter. For this recipe, we're using 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and I just break the butter into little chunks. You don't need a fancy tool to cut in butter. Just break it into chunks and drop it in your flour. You just want to take those chunks of butter and break them up like this, so that your pieces are kind of about that size right there. So we're just breaking up that butter, working it into the flour so that it's coated. Okay, so if you can get an idea what it looks like here, it's just kind of a crumbly mixture, and it's got little chunks of butter in it. And that's what we want. We don't want to break up the butter too small. We want to leave some good large pea-sized chunks. And now we're going to add our buttermilk. And we're just going to pour it right in there. All right, we are going to add 1/2 of a tablespoon of our sweetener, which today I'm going to use honey. Okay, and we're just going to toss this all together, mix it up nicely. You don't want to overmix when you're making biscuits, because then they tend to get tough. So you want to just work it together until it starts to want to stick together a little bit. Just about like that. Now we're going to take this, we're going to sprinkle our surface with a little bit of flour, and we're going to grab this and kind of squish it together, bring it down here. So we're going to work it together nicely. Okay, I'm going to fold it a few times. It's really sticking in my hands, but I don't want to add too much flour, so I don't mind the sticking, because you really want to treat it gently and keep it as light and fluffy as possible. Just fold it over. We're going to do this like 2 or 3 times. That's about it right there. I think that was 4 times. Now, what we're going to do, you could roll this out, but I like to, you really use a gentle hand with biscuits. So we're just going to pat it out. I'm going to pat it out to about 1 inch thickness. And we're going to take our biscuit cutter and push straight down and pull straight up. And we're just going to re-roll that. Give it one more fold over. That's a nice, that's going to be a flaky one. You can see where the flakes, where the layers are going to start separating. And the reason that you don't want to twist your cutter, when you put your cutter into your dough, you don't want to work it this way, because what you end up doing is you end up sealing these edges, and then they won't rise as nicely. The last one's always interesting, a little funny looking. And then this is what I call the ugly biscuit. That's the one you snack on as soon as they come out of the oven. Pop that ugly guy in the middle. And I'm going to take this over to the stove and I'm going to slide it out like this so that it slides onto my hot stone. My stone is nice and hot. It's been preheated to 450. And I'm just going to slide that right there. Close that oven. And set my timer for 10 minutes. Okay. Our 10 minutes is up. Let's see. Biscuits look pretty. Oh, they do. They look so pretty. Look how fluffy. Those are nice fluffy biscuits. So, as you can see, they have risen quite a bit from their 1 inch. Sometimes they look a little squishy on one side and they pop up on the other. This one's kind of a little bit more perfect. And then we've got your ugly biscuit. Those are special. Oh, look at that steam. Oh, they're so flaky. Flaky.